Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're digging through some really deep cuts old fan forums, forgotten plot summaries, to uncover something in horror lore so obscure, I'm willing to bet most diehard fans have never even heard of it.
We are talking about a completely hidden timeline in one of the biggest horror franchises ever. So forget the reboots, forget the sequels. We are looking at a 1997 young adult novel called Halloween, The Scream Factory.
That's right. If you think you know all there is to know about Michael Myers, think again. This was actually a series of three YA books, and they created this strange, teenage-focused alternate universe for The Shape.
And our mission today is to piece it all together using the reviews and the summaries that are out there, just to figure out what on earth was happening in this little forgotten corner of Haddonfield.
It almost sounds like a joke, but it's a really fascinating piece of the franchise's history. This book came out months before Halloween H2O.
Yeah, it established its own new timeline, ignoring everything but the original 1978 movie. It was, one of the first attempts to make Michael Myers relevant to a whole new generation, the post-Scream generation. Okay, let's unpack this because I think we have to start with why. Why did a young adult Michael Myers book even happen?
Well, it really just comes down to the market in the mid-90s. It was the absolute peak for YA horror fiction.
Oh, R.L. Stine everywhere.
Exactly. Goosebumps, the Darker Fear Street series, they were selling millions. So publishers were scrambling for any IP that could cash in on that.
And the slasher icons were definitely trying to get a piece of that. I remember there were those Jason Voorhees and Freddy Krueger YA books a few years earlier, like around 94.
There were, but they were a little too early. They kind of flopped. The real interest in those classic slashers didn't get fired up again until Scream came out in 1996.
Right, because Scream directly referenced the original Halloween. It made that kind of movie cool again for high schoolers. And so the Halloween producer at the time, Joe Wolf, he saw this perfect storm. You had the YA fiction boom, you had the Scream revival, and he just greenlit the whole project. He hired Kelly O'Rourke in 1997.
Kelly O'Rourke, the author. One review we found called her the, and I'm quoting, veritable J.D. Salinger of young adult horror movie tie-in novels.
It's a bit dramatic, but she is pretty reclusive. She wrote under the name Kelly Reno later on. But these three books, which came out super fast, like between October 97 and February 98, they're her most famous work.
Which is just wild because basically no one's read them. And here's where this gets really valuable for you, the learner. These books had an incredibly short life. They got one printing each. That's it.
Which means they are now extremely rare collector's items.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to find one of these little 150-page paperbacks today, you could be paying hundreds of dollars for it.
We're literally looking at a lost branch of pop culture history.
A little microverse of horror that was barely here long enough for anyone to notice.
Well, okay, so let's get into the lore itself because the book makes some really radical changes to the whole mythology. We already said it ignores everything after the first movie.
Right, and it sets up this much darker reality than even H2O did. In this version of Haddonfield, Michael Myers isn't just an escaped patient. He's a full-blown urban legend.
A boogeyman.
A pure boogeyman. He shows up on Halloween, he kills, and then he just vanishes. Comes back when people least expect it.
That's a great concept, actually, Michael as pure myth. But how did the author change the events of that original 1978 night to make that happen?
So, based on the records we have, the characters in the book read this old police report, and it details three major changes. First, in 1978, Michael Myers murdered 4 teenagers, not 3.
Okay, wait. If the only reference is the original movie, the inescapable conclusion there is that Laurie Strode was the 4th victim.
Exactly. It implies Loomis failed to save her.
Wow. That immediately makes this a much, much darker universe.
It really does. It grounds this whole timeline in tragedy. The second change is that Michael was shot 6 times by the police, not by Dr. Loomis.
So Loomis loses his big heroic moment. He's just a psychiatrist in the background.
Right. And the third detail is the big one for the book's whole setup. Michael was never captured after that night.
He just got away.
He vanished. And the report in the book says he was last seen in 1987, when he supposedly killed 12 teens in a massacre.
12 teens. Now, see, that's a time when, in the regular movie timeline, Michael was supposed to be in a coma.
A decade-long coma. Yeah.
Hold on, I want to push back on that a bit. The book wants us to think he's a myth, right? An urban legend. But giving him a specific body count, like 12 kids in 87, doesn't that make him less of a myth and more of a documented serial killer?
That is a really sharp point. And it shows you the conflict at the heart of the book, right? To make it a YA novel, you need a plot. You need concrete stakes, and that totally undermines the whole pure boogeyman idea they're going for.
They needed a scary local history to drive the story, which means they had to document his kills. It kind of cancels out the mystery.
It does. And that need for a specific plot forces Michael into some very un-Michael-like behavior.
Okay, let's get to that. Let's move from the dark lore to the teen melodrama that apparently takes up most of the book. Who are our main characters here?
The protagonist is a girl named Laurie Parker. She's described as a bookish wallflower, so kind of the opposite of Laurie Strode. Her main concerns are avoiding her high school rival, Marcia, and trying to get a guy named Jake Kovac to notice her.
Ah, Jake Kovac, the romantic lead. The notes describe him as the mysterious, dreamy loner who rides a motorcycle. He's like the Ben Tramer archetype, but their relationship actually flourishes.
He is a walking, talking checklist of 90s teen drama tropes. He's in a rock band called Zen. He's a prop master. He's an artist. He's got a yin and yang tattoo he uses to deliver cheesy lines about good and evil.
So the book is really like 80% Laurie trying to get the boy and win a popularity contest, and maybe 20% Michael Myers.
At best, the horror is definitely secondary.
So how does that high school drama stuff actually change what Michael does?
Well, the main plot is that the town's mayor gets Laurie and her friend Sally to create a haunted house in the basement of City Hall. They want to upstage Marcia's big Halloween party.
And Laurie calls it the Scream Factory.
She does.
Yeah.
And this is where Michael starts what one reviewer called his prankster phase.
Right. This is not the silent, menacing shape we know.
Not at all. This Michael stalks Laurie. He calls her house just to do the heavy breathing thing. He even carves a jack-o'-lantern for her friend with the word revenge written on it in blood.
But the most jarring example has to be the cock block incident. We have Michael Myers, the embodiment of pure evil, apparently spending his time breaking up teenage makeout sessions.
It is the ultimate 90s horror trope. So the main characters are all virgins, right?
Mm.
And there's this one night where both couples, Laurie and Jake and their friends, are finally about to get intimate at Jake's house.
And Michael shows up.
He triggers the house alarm. It starts blaring, forces all of them to leave and call the cops. Romance over.
The shape, enforcing a strict curfew. It's just so specific to the genre they were writing for. And this active, prank-pulling Michael is already a huge change, but his physical description is even crazier.
This is where it really feels like something is off. Like maybe this wasn't originally a Halloween book at all.
First off, he's not silent.
No, he growls like an animal loudly all the time, which just completely kills that terrifying still mystery about him.
And he's got this clear motivation, writing revenge everywhere. Even though we don't really know who he wants revenge on, it's not the usual he kills just because thing.
And his whole look is wrong. He's not in the blue coveralls. He's wearing a dirty black jumpsuit and gloves.
But the mask is the biggest sin here. It's what makes me think the author only had, like, secondhand notes about the character.
It is not the rubber mask. He wears a cheap plastic mask, one that shows his real matted hair sticking out around the edges.
And this is the killer detail.
The mask exposes his teeth. And the book specifically describes them as being rotten.
Rotten teeth Michael Myers. It's just, I mean, you can see why collectors would want this. It almost feels like the author just took a generic slasher script she already had and slapped the Halloween name on it at the last minute.
That's exactly what it feels like. Like someone gave her vague notes. He wears a mask and coveralls and kills people, and she just filled in the rest.
This unstoppable force of nature who can drag a tree across the road is also making prank calls and showing off his bad dental hygiene.
The clash in tone is just spectacular.
Well, let's pivot to the action. Because for all the teen romance, the notes say that when Michael finally does start killing, the gore is surprisingly brutal for a YA book.
Oh, it's a very sharp turn. The first real kill is halfway through the book, but it's vicious. An officer's checking out that tree Michael dragged into the road. Michael attacks him, stomps his face in.
Wait, Sartain style? For anyone who hasn't seen all the later movies, what does that mean?
It's a reference to a really brutal head stomp kill from the 2018 movie. It's just a shorthand for extreme sudden violence. So after that, Michael grabs an axe and just chops the cop's head clean off.
For a YA book. Wow.
Yeah, the review we saw said it was incredibly graphic and unexpected.
So you have this super graphic violence smashing into high school popularity contests. Which brings us to the climax, at the Scream Factory itself. Laurie finds out the whole haunted house was just a trap set by the mayor to lure Michael out.
And even though they know they're basically bait, Lori and her friend decide to go ahead with the party anyway. Their logic is literally, Michael Myers can't kill everyone who shows up.
Which is or questionable logic.
Very. So the party starts, Michael is already inside, and the doors get locked. The teens are all trapped. He starts killing people left and right. Jake's bandmates, the rival girl Marcia, and then he grabs a gas can.
A supervillain move.
Absolutely. He starts dousing the whole place, planning to burn the building down with hundreds of kids inside.
And this is where we get the big finale. Lori, our main character, she doesn't do anything.
She just watches. The person who saves the day is Matt, the quarterback, who Michael had tried to bury alive earlier in the book.
He just shows up out of nowhere to distract Michael, and Michael walks right into a trap, and the trap is...
A real guillotine.
Of course it is. A real guillotine that Jake, the multi-talented, dreamy prop master, apparently built for the high school haunted house.
A fully functional, life-sized, lethal guillotine. Michael looks up, the blade drops, and it hits him square in the face. It seems to kill him instantly.
So Michael Myers, the urban legend, is killed by a French Revolution execution device operated by a teenage quarterback. That's the ending.
Not quite. There's one last classic horror tease. The main kids all escape the burning city hall. And as the fire is raging, a jack-o'-lantern gets thrown out of a window. It has a guillotine blade stuck right in its face. It's a sign that Michael survived. Just, with a really messed up face and some burns.
That is one of the single most bizarre and savage endings to a forgotten teen novel I think we have ever covered on one of these deep dives.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the book is just a mess, really. It's so uneven. It has to cater to that YA romance audience, so you get this cheesy drama and a Michael Myers who acts like a vandal with bad teeth.
But when he does get to be Michael Myers, the action is genuinely brutal.
It's a perfect case study of what happens when you try to force an established horror icon into a totally different genre's box. The two things just clash.
And for you, the curious learner, this whole thing is a unique glimpse into a real horror multiverse. It's this hidden branch of the Halloween lore that tried to make Michael relevant for a new generation. And it just proves that sometimes the most interesting stuff is hiding in these rare, forgotten, and frankly, inconsistent corners of pop culture.
And it leaves us with a pretty good philosophical question that the book's strange lore brings up. It strips Michael down to being this mythic boogeyman who is never ever caught. So think about this. Is Michael Myers a more terrifying villain when he's a supernatural force that never gets captured? Or is he scarier when he's constantly being recaptured, contained, and broken out again like we see in all the different movie timelines? That's definitely something to think about on your own.